When the cops caught the criminals, they discovered shocking items on them before they were taken to prison. After getting information on some thieves, the cops successfully apprehended them. The cops shockingly recovered over 24 mobile devices from them and other gadgets. The cops lay out the devices on a table, still bewildered by the number of devices. The cops also recovered several fans and televisions with other home appliances. These appliances were found to have been taken from homes and shops around town. The extent of this petty theft is odd. These inmates grew bold and decided to film themselves doing something quite daring.
Rare footage filmed by escaped inmates show how they used a bunk bed leg to break out of a maximum security prison in the U.S. state of California.
The inmates have planned their escape from this California state prison for a long time, and tonight they acted out. Filming themselves, they break the leg of a bunk bed and use it to cut open a metal screen in the wall. Their path to escape is through that hole.
The trio climbed through shafts, with one of them giving a hearty thumbs up as their jailbreak succeeds. The men were eventually captured after...
The first inmate goes through the chute first, and his friends follow him. They use a metal bar that got from their bunk bed, as well as ripped bed sheets, to help them climb down from the wall. They eventually escape. For some reason, things aren't how they should be in this prison, and it's worrying to the wardens. This scene doesn't look like a prison at all. However, it is. The inmates found a water source, and to the surprise of the wardens, they flooded the basketball court. Many inmates gather around the now flooded court to swim or just enjoy themselves. Closer to the camera, some men are standing on the basketball goal net post. One of them climbs up carefully. He gets to the top of the post and looks down at the water where others are having fun. In a shocking athletic feat, he backflips into the pool. In a desperate bid to escape, these inmates resorted to very risky means. Will it work out? Some inmates are sitting outside the prison buildings leisurely when they hear loud, rattling sounds coming from behind them. Two young inmates jump off the roof and quickly run to them. They take the ladder from the ground and run to the wall where they can climb over to freedom with the ladder. The men get to the wall, and as expected, they use the ladders to climb over the wall hastily. It's quite risky, as from somewhere in the prison there are gunshots, and there is a barbed wire ringing the walls. The other inmates cheer the men on. They leap over the wall. An inmate seemingly works with someone to facilitate a surprising operation in the prison. The recorder sees a drone flying over the prison. He captures as the drone slowly descends into the premises and slowly flies to one of the windows in the building. It's a carrier drone that has a small package mounted under it. The drone gets to the window. A man is there waiting for it. He waves for the drone to drop the package into his hand. It does, successfully smuggling something to the inmate. The drone quickly flies away from the window. A couple of inmates picked the right time for their plan. They just needed something special to make things work.
As polícias civil e militar de Nova Esperança e de municípios da região estão à procura de 11 detentos que durante...
It's late at night and this man runs barefoot in the neighborhood. He's an escaping inmate. Soon, others, about 7 more, run down the street as well. They just escaped the prison and would like to put enough distance between them and the prison.
Prédio da delegacia e residências vizinhas filmaram o momento exato da fuga. As imagens mostram...
A different camera shows how they climbed over the wall of the prison with wires to get on the other side of the wall. Out of prison, they begin to run. The street is empty, but they don't have much time before the wardens chase them. The inmates had no idea what the wardens had planned for them. When they discovered, it was too late. The prison wardens are called to enter the prison and are given gloves. Each of them receives gloves and puts them on. Soon they get the inmates out and order them to crouch outside their cells. One of the wardens warns them not to make any suspicious moves.
In their beds, in their cupboards, so that possession can be directly, established. So all of these wrong things that were inside there, they are individuals who are...
The wardens begin to search the cells and the belongings of the inmates. They believe they are hiding contraband items. After a thorough search, the wardens find stashes of drugs, weed, and other items the inmates ought not to have. The inmates coordinated themselves perfectly and made things hard for the wardens in this dramatic clip. The security camera is recording an empty section of the prison premises. Suddenly, a suspicious man, a warden, runs out. He quickly approaches the gate while looking back to see if someone is following him. He gets to the gate, and rather than run, he pulls the gate close. He has to stop the van from leaving. The van gets stuck at the gate, the metal holding it in place. Another inmate runs to the trapped van, hijacking it. The events in this clip seem strange, as what the inmates did to escape cannot be explained. Can you figure it out? The cop is about to enter the room with a file in his hand. The doors open before he knocks, and a man walks out. The man is about to walk ahead, but changes his tracks and takes the side of the room. Other men step out of the room, following him. The cop stands by watching them. Two inmates with a surprising stroke of luck are able to get the cop to open the door for them. They walk out leisurely. An old cop follows them, but they quickly make their escape. An inmate and his accomplice were close to completing a plan, but the warden's suspicion does irreparable damage. The inmate was receiving a package under the guise of toiletries. The warden stopped this, wanting to inspect the package being given to the inmate. He finds these slippers and feels them up. The slippers feel bloated, so he cuts it open, seeing something inside. He finds little wraps of weed that would have been smuggled into the prison. The warden is sure to find more weed hidden in the other slipper. The weed was seized, making it impossible for the inmate to get his hands on the weed. The inmate had resigned himself to his fate. Or did he? Luck smiled on him, but the chance was still risky for him. The inmate is lucky to find an unsecured window in his jail cell. He takes his chance getting out of the window and climbing down the wall of the building to the ground. Throughout this, it seems no one on the street notices him. He gets down and walks confidently by the parked car. He doesn't run, but he walks quickly down the building. Any time now, the cops could check his cell and find him gone. The clip is all they have to track him down. When an inmate got his hand on a smartphone, he planned something devious that shocked everyone.
Baby, you know what time it is?
This inmate in the South Carolina prison somehow gets his hand on a smartphone. He creates a Facebook account and goes live. He makes a rude gesture to the people in his live stream. He has someone with him who has a sharp blade in his hand. They smile at the camera, flaunting the little power they have. He takes the phone with him to the general area of the prison and shows people what is going on there. His accomplice stands by, watching him as he rants about his frustrations. It started all of a sudden, but what spread in the prison was more than a wildfire that came for everyone. The inmates on the second floor watch in horror and shock as some inmates fight on the lower floor. They have started a fire that casts an ominous glow in the prison. The fight also involves guns, and a few shots have been fired. This guy has a bullet from one of the shots in the palm of his hand.
Nós queremos direitos humanos, a cadeia virou, entendeu? Tá assim a situação do sistema.
One of the guys got involved in the fray and got injured. His bleeding arm has been wrapped up with his t-shirt. Other inmates walk about covering their noses with clothes. Something foul is smelling in the air. The warden never expected things to spiral so fast out of his control. The terrifying sight in the cell was hard to describe. The warden heard a loud explosion from his station. He felt the earth shake underneath him. He runs to the cells and sees the horrifying damage in the cell. The inmates are not in the cell, and everything in the room has been torn to pieces or buried under debris. He coughs, trying to clear his throat. There's a foul smell in the air. He looks closely and sees a small but deep hole in the ground. He doesn't know what caused it yet, but he has suspicions. Although it was a losing game, these inmates knew they had just one chance. Their actions were felt far and wide. The inmates have been dissatisfied with the wardens for a while now. They decide to stage a protest, and unexpectedly, it's a public one. They break the windows within their reach and burn cardboard and other inflammable materials, letting them drop to the side of the building. The wardens cordon the area to keep civilians out. The inmates shout, chanting by the broken windows. The wardens were able to quickly put out the fire. The fire of the inmates' protest persists. Civilians film and watch them demonstrate from the window of the prison. An inmate came up with a weird plan that might have worked, but when it was time to execute it, things went sideways. The inmates are gathered in the inner courtyard of the prison. A man in a red t-shirt gets to the wall. He gestures quickly to the masked man beside him, who gives him a boost as he climbs up the wall. The man gets up the wall, and the masked man leaves. The wall is too high. No matter how he tries to pull himself further, he fails. He's about to fall but grabs onto a wire that keeps him from falling. Still, that isn't enough and he falls to the ground. You wouldn't believe how these inmates plan to jailbreak. When the chance came, it came down to how fast they could run. Will they make it?
Não sei como não quebrar as pernas.
Ó, os vagabundos fugindo da cadeia. Olha, esse machucou ali. Olha onde que arrancou. Olha.
It is a sweltering afternoon. No one in the street knows how the inmates did it, but they are able to get to the top of the prison and break out. They run on the roof and jump down the side of the building without a care for their safety. With no time to lose, they run as soon as they get to the ground.
Opa!
Olha o guarda tá preocupado com a loja. Will, voltou.
One man is trying to get down the building but falls on the ground with his back. He runs after the others. The onlookers do not interfere. 2 inmates found everyone asleep. They had just a wall between them and freedom. Could this be their chance? While other inmates are asleep, 2 men creep out silently. The 2 of them reach a side of the wall. The younger man holds an unstable pole tied to the wall. He bends, and the older man climbs his back. With the help of the younger man, he makes it up the wall. The man below watches the other man, waiting for the other man to help him. The man throws down a bedsheet for the younger man. He uses it to climb the wall. He almost falls, but gets a hand from the man who pulls him over the wall. When everyone thought the convict would go with his fate, he thought otherwise. He resisted his fate, and his end was brutal.
None of this goes unnoticed. A warning here. What you're about to see.
The man has just been convicted of a crime. He doesn't want to go to prison. He looks about, planning his escape. He sees everyone is relaxed and no one is watching him. He rises and bolts to the exit.
It's disturbing.
He runs quickly as a lawyer and a cop chase after him. He leaves the courtroom and directly flips off the balcony to the lower floor. His hands are cuffed and he falls on his side. It is reported that he fractured his hip bone and ankle. In a shocking turn of events, the inmate saw the cops didn't secure him well. He risked it all he had for his freedom.
Busts a move in a bid for freedom, and it's all caught on camera, as you'll see here. Surveillance video shows Jeffrey Hope running out of a holding cell at the county courthouse and then running off down a hallway. Several Hamilton County deputies gave chase.
The inmate breaks out of his holding cell in the courthouse. Immediately, he begins running as fast as possible. As he runs in his inmate's clothes, the cops rise from their seats and chase after him. The man blazes down a hallway, startling the others in the court.
Attempt was for naught, though. Deputies caught him, put him in handcuffs. He was still struggling with them as they put him in the cell. Hope was facing criminal trespassing and theft charges.
The cops catch up and apprehend him again. They pull him back into the courthouse and back to his holding cell. He still struggles, but the cops' grip on him is strong. The inanimate had made his first escape, but amid cops once more, would he be able to make his risky escape with freedom so close? The cop leans on a car and waits for his colleague to get out. The cop exits his car, so he pulls him aside to talk about an escaped inmate in the stolen car he leaned on. While they are talking, he opens his car door and runs to the garage gate, which is already closing. The cops give chase, but the gate is fully closed. They are about to take the door when one of them goes back and gets the dog. They then go out to find the escapee. The wardens woke up and suddenly found themselves at a disadvantage in the prison. The inmates are doing something shocking they've never seen before.
Estadual de Londrina, no Paraná, das pessoas que trabalham na penitenciária. Os detentos quebraram vidros, colocaram fogo.
The inmates in this Brazilian prison coalesce and stage a rebellion. They take over the prison and capture people who don't want to participate in the rebellion. The inmates tear their clothes using them as ropes to tie the hands and legs of one of the resistors. They carry him over the roof.
Não tem a confirmação se é agente penitenciário, se é presidiário. O que a gente sabe é que duas pessoas estão sendo feitas reféns.
They dump him at the edge of the roof with other resistors. The inmates know they won't be able to have control of the prison for long. So, they use the resistors as hostages that they threaten to throw off the roof. Events lined up well for these inmates, and they took every chance to do the most shocking thing ever. These people are just going about their day in a street in Mexico when they look behind them at the raucous happening. A young man runs away from the situation, and they too begin to run. Soon, a man with a gun in his hands gets close to them. He doesn't hurt them, but runs, and other men follow him. They are escaped inmates. Some of them hijack a bike and ride away with it. The others hijack a bike as well, but one of them can't climb on quickly and is forced to run after the bike. It was a terrifying sight as more inmates than can be counted did something shocking. They never thought it would work.
Você vai ver fuga de... Olha só, gente, essa imagem aí, é impressionante. Isso é tudo preso fugindo da cadeia. Isso aconteceu lá na cidade de Cristalina. 18 detentos escaparam da unidade.
The inmates must have broken through the defense of the warden and they rushed to the prison gate. Not caring to open the gate, they climb it and jump over it. It's a stream of human bodies flooding the street as over a dozen of them are escaping now that they have the chance.
Recapturados, graças a Deus. A Diretoria-Geral de Administração Penitenciária publicou os nomes e fotos dos detentos para que as pessoas possam colaborar no sentido de...
Some of the escapees try hijacking a car down the road, but the others are content running on foot. Although they escaped, the cops find some of them in the woods, and they are arrested again and will be led back to the prison. The cops found an unhinged woman and placed her in a cell, but that wasn't enough, so they brought out the big guns. The cops apprehend this drunk woman. She resists them, trying to slow them down as they take her into a holding cell. Knowing she won't be cooperative, the cops hold her down as they cuff her legs and hands.
Why did you get arrested?
I did something wrong, and I don't know what it was.
You don't have no idea what it was?
No.
The cops get a restraint chair and tie her down to it. They leave only 2 cops with her now that she is secured. She screamed profanities at the cops, so they had to put a bag over her mouth to muffle her screams. The lead cop tries talking to her. 2 inmates bolted into the woods to escape, but they knew that wouldn't be enough. They needed more. Can you guess their next actions? The 2 inmates have just escaped the prison and are still in their inmate clothes. The onlooker records as they jump down the road and run into the woods to shake off the cops searching for them.
Os 2 homens que aparecem correndo fugiram da delegacia de Carmo do Cajuru. Eles entram para o meio deste matagal e depois não são mais.
The cops begin to search for them as expected. The inmates show surprising ingenuity by hiding in a body of water in the woods. However, their clothes are like a beacon that attracts the cops. The cops have found them, and they are now trapped in the water.
Os foragidos tiraram os uniformes do presídio, que foram abandonados dentro deste ribeirão.
Several inmates make a gang and run a shady business. However, it's shocking how they went about it. The inmates have a white cloth covering their faces with just eye slits for them to see. One of them is talking to the camera with a phone in his hand. On the floor are dozens of stolen phones and accessories.
Entendeu? Referente à direção da cadeia, entendeu? Eles querem oprimir o preso.
How they got them is still a mystery. More masked inmates join him. Coupled with the phones are little wraps of cocaine that they have smuggled into the prison. They are a gang and plan to trade the devices and drugs to others in prison.
Olha como é que a direção deixa nós aqui apampar, cachaça, telefone, misteira.
The inmate had worked hard for what he got in prison, but things out of his control caused serious harm to his plans. The inmate stands over the inmate seating. The sitting inmate is arguing with the one over him. Angry at being challenged, he leans in close to the sitting inmate and threatens him. There is also another guy behind him with a hidden weapon. The inmate relents and shows his phone, giving it to his bully. He has been ganged up on and has no way out. The bullied inmate has some money in his Cash App which the bully wants. Everyone was called back to their cells for the night, but two inmates had a different plan. How they went about their escape was shocking. Nothing moves in the yard, as if everyone is back in the cells sleeping. Suddenly, the trash can's covers fly open and two inmates rise out of it. Seeing no one around, they jump out of the trash cans. It's time to run. Before escaping, they know they need to disguise themselves, else they'll be caught quickly. They take off their clothes around a corner and begin to put on their disguise. They will escape any minute now. The inmate was about to have his first taste of freedom, but didn't think things through. That was the beginning of the end for him. The inmate has found his way to the roof of the prison. However, he is scared of heights, so he can't jump down. He gets closer to the edge of the roof. He clings to a rope to get down. The other inmates watch him make his escape. He makes it down successfully, but his escape is thwarted as the wardens are already on the other end waiting for him. They order him to tie his hands with his shirt, which he does. He walks over to the wardens to be taken back to his cell. This inmate will wow you as his actions reveal so much about him that even the wardens couldn't predict. This inmate is a former North Korean Special Force member in a Chinese jail. Having perfected his plans, he climbs up a building in prison in the middle of the night. He's quite stealthy as he runs on the roof of the building. He has a rope with him. He uses it to cut the wires around the building's electric fence. You can see the sparks as the wires get damaged. The wires are disabled, so he climbs over the fence. Undaunted by the height, he jumps down and lands on his feet. He doesn't limp from the impact, but runs away. This person did something unthinkable in a county jail, and it's more messed up than you can imagine. This man in the clip just walks into the Lake County Jail with a small keg in his hand. The doors open for him. He has picked the right time as no one in the lobby. He begins to pour the liquid from the keg onto the ground around the jail's lobby. That should be gasoline he's pouring on the ground. He sets fire to a piece of paper and lets it fall to the fuel-filled floor. The fire spreads all over the lobby around the fuel spill when the paper hits the floor. He avoids getting caught in the fire and runs from the lobby. On an eventful night, several inmates gang up for the escape of their lives. What happened to them is quite disturbing. It almost looks like a normal night outside the prison premises when someone suddenly jumps over the fence and falls flat on the ground, just avoiding falling on the car. Despite him being hurt, he rises and runs away. Others jump over the fence, following him. 2 more men jump over the fence, running together. One of them is injured and limps after his accomplice. Another inmate jumps on a heap of rubbish, falling face first into it. He picks himself up to run but slips on the ground.
Esse machucou também, ó. Depois ele vai parar no meio, ó.
Não, esse acho que levou.
Não, ele machucou, ó.
A new tactic used by inmates has just been uncovered. How this played out is quite fascinating. See for yourselves. The inmate looks up, not taking his gaze from something in the sky. He seems to be hiding his hand under a shirt. The other inmates do not seem bothered by this, sitting or standing leisurely. The inmate tracks something in the sky and moves around with his head still up. It's a drone. He rushes forward and tries to catch something falling from the sky. He almost falls when he kicks a metal object on the ground. The package of marijuana eventually falls to the ground. He covers it with the shirt, picks it, and walks away. In a shocking tale of love, this shocking clip shows Vicky White, a cop, doing something cops should never do. This cop car reverses and stops in the driveway. Someone in the car, probably a cop, busies themselves in the vehicle. The cop takes their time before stepping out of the car. It's a female cop. The cop, Vicky White, goes into the Lauderdale County Jail. She is in there for a while, then she comes out and is followed by an infamous suspect, Casey White. She opens the back seat for him and he enters the car. She drives away with the suspect. Shockingly, she and the suspect have been having an affair while he was in prison. She helps him escape. While in a courthouse, the suspect knew his time was running out. He decided to go out with one last blaze of glory. The prisoner's trial is in a few minutes. He is nervous and doesn't want to see the judge. Seeing the large glass windows, he picks up his seat and slams it down on the glass. It breaks. A bystander throws a chair to stop him. The prisoner quickly ducks through the broken window. The cop on site shoots to stop him. He fails and chases after the escaped prisoner. The bystanders run out to see the chase. The cop goes after the prisoner but stops shooting. According to reports, the prisoner was captured a few minutes later.
Aguanta!
Out of the blue, an explosion rocks the prison and sets off an unstoppable storm. This surprising event is like no other. The news crew is informed that an ongoing jailbreak is going on in a nearby prison. They run over to the prison as fast as possible. As they get close, they hear a loud explosion, stopping them in their tracks. They see a bulldozer in a pile of debris and dust with a broken section of a wall behind it. A man, the jailbreaker, jumps out of the vehicle, running away. The man runs down the street with 13 other inmates running alongside him. The crew stays out of their path. The jailbreakers are happy to have escaped.
A cloud of debris is a 20-ton bulldozer. It is slammed into the exterior of the prison, knocking a gaping hole in the wall. 13 inmates burst through the hole and escape.
This story is similar to many you've seen, but what makes this unique is the brazenness you are about to see. The inmates are some of the worst you will see.
Que facilita situações como estas. Primeiro, 2 detentos escalam uma parede para pegar objetos no telhado. Aqui, homem caminha livremente pelo teto.
The drone captures these 2 inmates working in tandem to escape. They try to climb up to the roof of the building with one of the pillars. There's someone up on the roof, presumably waiting for them.
Em março, o Jornal da Record mostrou cenas iguais às de agora. O Ministério Público, então, acionou o governo do estado da Bahia para promover melhorias na segurança dos complexos.
Late into the night, at the same prison, a man climbs up a security mesh net wall around the prison. The prison's spotlight is on him. He doesn't care, and he throws something into the prison for one of the prisoners. When kids have had enough of something, they resort to extreme means. Some kids in a juvenile center showed how far they were willing to go. This is the Indian River Juvenile Correctional Facility. The security camera records as the young men enter this room. They come in one at a time, surveilling the room and moving things about. One of them runs to the door and urges more of them to enter the room. There is something tense about what they are doing, especially with them being shirtless. The boys begin barricading themselves into the room, stacking desks and other furniture against the door. They look angry. Worryingly, they are armed with makeshift weapons from the vocational classroom, which they threaten to hurt staff members with. Although a storm hit the prison, the inmates made their storm. A worse storm will appall viewers. It seems a storm just hit this prison and did serious damage to the infrastructure. The inmates work to clear the debris and put things back in order. The courtside is filled with inmates milling about. However, some inmates use this chance to cause more chaos by starting a fire in the building. This inmate cheers. Some of the inmates gather around the camera, masking up. They begin chanting, looking ecstatic about the nuisance they are causing in the prison. They seem to be a prison gang with how they are dressed. Two strangers outside the prison do something strange. You'll be shocked at what they did for the inmates. The inmates in the prison are working with a drug gang outside the prison. Arriving at the agreed place and time, these two gang members throw packages of drugs into the prison grounds. Unknown to them, the security camera is recording them. After throwing the drugs in, they run, but one of them, not focusing, runs into a light pole and falls to the ground. Feeling stupid and having a mild concussion, he gets on his feet and runs as fast as his legs can take him. His colleague has gone far, leaving him behind. On a solemn night, a disaster hit the prison. One after another, they kept coming. How did they do it? This inmate in blue shorts and a white shirt in his hand has successfully leaped over the gate of the prison. He takes off immediately. The street is empty and no one will see him except the surveillance camera. Other inmates either climb or jump over the gate quickly. Without waiting, they all run in the direction the first inmate took. The last inmate is slower than the others, but he manages to get over the gate and run after his fellow inmates. Circumstances lined up for them, and they had to take it. The wardens never expected their negligence would cause such a disaster. These inmates found a huge tunnel in the prison's premises, not secured by the wardens. They hatch a plan, and tonight, they bring it to life. They get a makeshift ladder, inserting it into the tunnel and securing it. The first inmate goes down the tunnel with a lamp hanging into the tunnel.
Qual é o final? Para medir depois. O final é esse aí mesmo? Da corda? Não.
The inmate has gone far into the tunnel. The others at the top send down another lamp as he gets deeper. The view changes to the tunnel, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. This clip shows something disturbing. Whether it's a dangerous game or attempted murder, you will have to determine that. In the open space of this prison, an explosion sends a plastic container flying. The prisoners don't react, staying in their seats or standing in clusters. Someone throws something towards the clustered prisoners. It misses but still explodes in smoke. Another one is thrown closer to them now. The prisoners move to avoid it. The explosions keep ringing out, sounding like gunshots. The prisoners just shout in indignation, not running. Smoke begins to fill the space. An inmate walks out in the open to join the clustered group. For a while now, the prison warden has been troubled by reports from the cells of something sinister. When they searched, they got the shock of their lives from what they discovered.
Droga no presídio do Roger. Pelo menos 8 porções da droga foram apreendidas na ação realizada nos pavilhões 2 e 3 na noite de ontem.
The prison warden is informed that drugs are being smuggled into the prison. They search the prison cells. Eventually, they find odd-looking balls and strange strings in several cells. The strange wires still puzzle the warden, but they guess it's used to lift the balls.
Com a ajuda de uma espécie de anzol, os presos conseguiam pescar a droga deixada do lado.
They aren't sure what they are, but since they shouldn't be there, they seize them. Investigation shows that the odd-looking balls encapsulate drugs in them. A scuffle in the cell turns into something worse. Considering the state of the people involved, you would wonder what it was all about. These two inmates are fighting. The reason is unknown. However, the big black guy has a bottle in his hand which he grips tight. There is rage in his eyes and probably on drugs. He screams threats at the white guy about to hurt him. The smaller guy kicks the black guy to keep him away. He is trying to defend himself. The black guy rages harder, his screams and gestures getting wilder. The white guy retreats between the bunk bed. He keeps saying please as the black guy gets closer to him. The cop brought the inmates before the judge, but he didn't know what one of them was up to, and he paid a terrible price for that. The inmates are waiting in the corridor. A cop leads another inmate in. The place gets crowded with about 5 male inmates and 1 female inmate. Suspiciously, one of the male inmates stands by a door, watching the cop carefully. As the cop passes him, he slides past the cop. The cop goes further in, his back to the inmate as he backpedals and leaves the corridor. He enters a courtroom and takes off his cuffs easily. He goes to the door and takes off his inmate shirt so as not to give away his identity quickly. An inmate had already fooled the warden, but when things were close to fruition, it went sideways. This woman is talking to the warden in charge. There is a woman by her side and another woman waiting behind her. The door of the room opens and a warden walks in. The woman behind her walks up to talk to her. The warden walks to the counter, watching the woman. The woman walks to the door, calls someone in, and closes the door. The two male wardens point guns at the woman. The warden behind the reception steps out and asks her to kneel. She complies. He checks her hair. It's a disguise. The woman is a man. In this prison, right under the warden's noses, inmates disappeared and they didn't understand how.
Mostrando para vocês em primeira mão o buraco onde os presos fugiram. Está aqui.
The recorder then shows the view of the surroundings. It's a prison with walls of mesh metal and barbed wire. He then shows a part in the ground where there is a tunnel leading in and out of the prison.
Aí por esse buraco passaram dezenas de homens. Muito escuro, sem luz.
The tunnel is wide enough to allow a person to crawl through. The wardens seem to have not noticed this.
Iluminar a passagem. Tá aí para vocês verem.
A metal object on the ground with a burn mark might be one of the tools used by the escaped inmates to cause damage to the tunnel. This next clip is about another pair of star-crossed lovers. What led to this tragedy all started with food.
Juliana tem 23 anos. Foi presa após ser flagrada com quase meio quilo de maconha, tentando levar a droga para o marido que está preso.
This woman, Juliana, has a lover in prison. On this day, she walks into the prison purporting to bring food for him. The cops take her bag and search it. There is just a bag with some food ingredients. The warden opens the transparent bag and digs around. He finds a huge box of marijuana that she wants to slip to her lover.
Escondido num quilo de farinha. Ela disse que a intenção era entregar a droga para o marido, apenado identificado como Júnior Santos, que está preso pelo crime de tráfico de entorpecentes.
The wardens confiscate the marijuana and arrest her. She is cuffed and tries to follow her lover into the prison. The warder pulls her back. She will wait for the cops to come pick her up. Her lover is returned to his cell. Two inmates saw a vehicle enter the prison. They looked at each other and knew what to do next. The incoming trailer just left the prison after depositing water in the facility. As the trailer moves forward, you can see two men hanging from the back of the vehicle. Those are escaped prisoners who hitched a free ride out of the prison in the middle of the night. They get off the trailer. The men have no idea where they are going next. They are shirtless and shoeless, but they are happy to be out. Their freedom won't last as they have been caught on camera escaping. A fierce prisoner shows a wilder side in his cell. You won't believe why.
Сюда все, мне дверь выбить, начать вас долбить, что ли, или что? Это может как человек.
The man in the cage talks to his wife and son sitting outside his cage. They don't reply. Angry, he yells and starts to kick the walls of the cage. A cop around the cage moves the camera away from him.
Что творят? Каратели меня. Снимайте мне ебу, что делаете? Пошла нахуй отсюда, курва ебаная, я же сказал, и ты, дура, тоже.
He takes out the lock of the cage after shaking it loose. He throws it against the wall. The cop holds the door closed and the prisoner goes back to kicking the cage.
А я, курва, выйду через 3 недели. Ровно где-то через 17 дней. Жди меня. А ты снимай.
He paces back and forth, trading harsh words with the people outside the cell. The cop has locked the cell again. Several wardens couldn't stop what happened as the determined inmate did something risky in front of them.
Each barefoot inmate has heavy steel shackles around their ankles. Sitting in the front row.
This warden brings some prisoners into a holding cell. They take their seats in the front row. One warden does some paperwork behind them while one watches them.
Chaichana appears to tamper with the shackles. Then the two men seem to communicate something to each other. And as this guard does some paperwork, and this guard fumbles in his pocket for...
One of two men in the front row fiddles with the shackles on his legs. He leans close to his colleague, saying something to him. The wardens are busy, not keeping a close eye on the men.
While one guard stays behind to keep an eye on the remaining inmates.
The man takes off his shackles and runs to the exit. He opens the door and the warden tries to stop him. The man's colleague distracts one of the wardens. The inmate pushes off two cops and frees himself from the third one, escaping. A show of force in the prison ends badly for everyone. This disaster puts everything at risk. An inmate is hanging on the side of the wall for his deer. It's puzzling how he got there, but he won't come down. Two inmates run down a flight of stairs. The second man heads to the man on the wall. He picks up and throws a cloth at another man coming to him. The second man sets fire to the cloth. The cloth burns, filling the eating area with smoke. Just a few people are still hanging around, and the man is still on the wall. An inmate rolls off the table while another goes closer to the burning cloth. He falls to the ground, coughing. Several inmates came up with a wild idea, something that hasn't been done before in the prison. The way they managed to pull this off will surprise you. These inmates suddenly come out to party when the warden closes for the night. The remaining wardens cannot stop them as they smuggle in speakers, drinks, and drugs into the prison. They blast music, dance, and record themselves having fun. They smoke and are shirtless. The party has all the inmates going wild. Although the space is cramped and small, they won't stop enjoying themselves regardless of the warden's actions. Some lawyers were trying to take matters into their own hands, but the inmate did something horrendous to stall things.
Let's slow that down and take another look. Corrections officers slip a flashbang, which is meant to disorient the inmates, through a...
These inmates are called out of their cells to a temporary waiting area where lawyers would talk to them. Most of them are seated, waiting for their turn to talk to the paralegals. However, a man is closer to the window, and he shouts foul words at the people outside the room. He waves a small switchblade at them,
which is meant to disorient the inmates, through a slot in the door. One officer covers the slot with his foot, and another covers his ears, and bang!
He keeps threatening them, using fellow inmates as hostages. The lawyers outside rise and try to talk to him. They need him to be calm and reasonable, not to hurt anyone. Tensions ran high in this prison, and it looked like blood would be shed. This clip would leave you at the edge of your seat.
Presos andam livremente pelo pátio de uma das unidades e muitos deles estão armados.
The inmate has a machete in his hand. He flexes the machete, walking around a block in the prison. Two other inmates, with their arms around each other, walk with a machete for intimidation.
Veja este preso. Enquanto ele fala no celular, levanta na outra mão facão. Este outro caminha pelo pátio.
One inmate has a machete which he uses to hit the wall as he talks to someone on the phone. Everyone is tense as a gang war is currently going on in the prison.
Dois presos lutam com facões, enquanto outros, também armados, assistem e provocam. Tudo isso acontece em um lugar que deveria ser vigiado por guaritas, mas muito...
Soon, the leaders of the gang start attacking each other with their machetes. The situation looks dire. To avoid any casualties, the inmates come in between them, pulling them away from each other. A strange event occurred in the prison with suspicious substances mysteriously appearing in the prison yard.
Tá caindo. Tá caindo. Caindo lá no ar e aqui desse lado. Olha o tanto aí, ó. Olha o tanto aí no chão.
The inmates stand around in the basketball court as several round small packages are thrown into the court. They stay away from the projectile site. The packages fall and roll on the floor. What is being thrown into there are hard drugs which the inmates will take and trade in the prison.
Onde amarelinho. Ó, caiu aqui lá no ar.
The inmates begin picking the narcotics from the ground and pocketing them. The drug dealers outside the prison keep throwing more packages. It almost seems to be endless, and the inmates wait on them. The inmates describe it as a rain of drugs. Getting drugs into a prison isn't easy. As this man tried, a funny turn of events made things worse. This suspicious man walks up to the side of the prison. He observes the prison walls and moves closer. He has a package in his hand that he hides as best as he can. He seems to be waiting for a signal from someone inside. He runs forward, having received the sign, and throws the drugs into the prison compound. Immediately, the armed wardens run out of the prison, getting to him. He lies on the floor as they descend on him. Freedom is costly, but in this case, it turned deadly. The inmates never stood a chance in this.
Roda aí, olha, os presos vão se organizando para pular o muro. Vamos ouvir.
In a bid to escape the prison, these inmates climb up the wall. The barbed wire around the walls does not faze them as they struggle up and over the wall. In a show of solidarity, the inmates help each other up the wall, urging them to go faster.
Bom, isso aconteceu ontem à tarde na colônia.
Gunshots ring out, and the men jump over the fence faster. The wardens are shooting them. The inmates still in the yard shout in terror. The inmates that have jumped over the wall run as fast as possible as the shots are directed at them. According to reports, 32 inmates escaped and 20 shots were fired, leaving 1 prisoner dead and 9 injured. This next clip shows how love can become twisted. The woman does something unimaginable to prove her love to an inmate. A woman tries getting into prison to visit her husband. The wardens suspect her of smuggling stuff into the prison for her husband. They search up and discover drugs and a suspicious object that she has hidden in her rectum. Confiscating it, one of the wardens cuts the package open. The package is tightly sealed, and it takes the warden a while before he tears it open fully. He undoes the wrap around the object and reveals it is a phone. The phone would have been used for communication with her outside the prison. In this clip, you will see the corruption rife in this prison, particularly what the guards and inmates are up to when no eyes are on them.
Bloemfontein's Grootvlei prison. Warden Mike Ramalofani is a frequent visitor to this cell. Not to search for illegal substances or articles, but to drink brandy and coke.
The man sitting in front of the camera is one of the prison guards. Rather than search the prisoners' cells for smuggled goods and illegal stuff, he sits with them, drinking brandy and cooking with them. He also eats food stolen from the kitchen. The guards in the South African prison are known to be corrupt. To get evidence, the prisoners get a spy cam and use it to record the illicit acts of the guards. The guard also coerces the inmates for sex so they can win favors from him. In the clip, he lies in the bed and an inmate gets naked. In a Tennessee courtroom, prisoners were before a judge, but one of them had more drastic thoughts. At the front row of the Tennessee courtroom are handcuffed prisoners who were summoned by the court to attend their court hearing. A prisoner returns to his seat, and a woman enters the courtroom. The same inmate rises from his chair and walks towards the court staff. The man isn't going to the staff. He walks to the court's window, opens it, and jumps out. The people in the court are slow to react. He falls side first on the ground. Obviously in pain, he gets up and runs away. In a stunning display of humiliation captured by an inmate, you will be stunned at the depravity in this prison. The inmate recording says the other inmates have a man on a dog leash. He walks towards the common ground. He makes jokes about it. On getting there, the clip shows the man on all fours with a dog leash around his neck. Some inmates surround and humiliate him. The leashed man crawls down the stairs, too embarrassed to look in the camera. Someone whistles to get his attention. They are treating him like a dog. This scene from this Russian prison was shocking to the guards. It's an odd birthing scene that you must see. The man is coming out through the meal hole in his prison cell. After weighing all his options, he sees this is the best way for him to escape. No guard is on duty on this floor. He sticks his small frame into the meal hole and slowly gets his head, hands, and torso out. His lower half is still stuck in the hole. He eventually slips out of the hole, his briefs slipping off his private part. He gets up and pulls his briefs up. Then he picks out his things from the meal hole, ready to escape. At the correctional facility in Orange County, things suddenly got heated when an inmate decided to act up. It turned out much worse than you could have expected. This is a body cam footage from a cop at the Orange County Jail. A prisoner has been able to get hold of someone. He holds the person at gunpoint. The cop can't go in just yet, or else he risks the person's life. The SWAT team arrives and they quickly shoot rubber bullets at the prisoner. They go into the jail fully armed.
Stop. He's good. Pull out. He's good. All right. Take a breath. We're going to get you over to the ambulance, all right?
The SWAT officers pulled out and injured a colleague. They then storm in and capture the prisoner. He pleads, blaming his PTSD. Inmates have celebrities too, but their celebrity type isn't the type you can imagine. It's terrifying, actually. These prisoners are held in a temporary containment for a while. A cop stands guard. The inmates move around the small cell, watching something outside the camera's view. The inmates get excited and move closer to the bars of the cell. Armed officers walk into the camera's view. The officers have a detained man in their midst that they drag along. Some inmates applaud the arrested man. The man is an accused cop killer, Shomari Leggett. A sinister plan by someone outside the prison works so well that it could be straight out of a movie. First, a vehicle appeared. What next? The prison guards are watching the security footage of a jailbreak. In the middle of the night, a mini-truck drives into the scene and goes through the prison gate. The gates do not stand a chance, and the car enters the premises. Soon, inmates start running out of the prison premises and flooding the street. The truck is still on the premises. Reports assert that 17 inmates escaped. An inmate had all he needed to make his plans work. He just required the right time, and that time came right on time. This is a prison in Florida. The inmates are playing in the yard, and most of them are focused on what they are doing. They aren't too active. However, look closely and see an inmate climbing up the wall with everyone distracted. The inmate slows and gets up the wall. Someone sees him and calls everyone's attention. They all gather, watching the inmate work his way to freedom. The man makes it over the wall, lands on the other side, and runs away. The prison guards were carrying out a routine check. The inmates have watched them for a while and hatched a dark plot. The guards have to search the inmates' cells today. So he opens the cell door while his colleague with a gun stands by. He opens the door and steps away, waiting for the inmates to come out. The inmates, 3 of them, have their hands on their heads. They walk out with their backs to the guards and head to the side of the prison yard. A guard enters the cell. The inmates run back into the cell. The guard with the gun shoots at them but misses. They storm the cell, capturing the guard as a hostage. One of them closes the door.